Teo stood in the observation room of Prometheus 7, watching Earth rotate below him like a blue and green jewel. The space station hung in the darkness of space, orbiting Jupiter like a small metal bug crawling around a giant planet. He had been born on Earth in Seoul, but he had not seen his home world in 5 years. Now, at age 42, he wondered if he would ever stand on solid ground again. Behind him, screens showed data streams and technical readouts. Scientists and engineers moved through the corridors of the station with purpose, their faces tight with stress. They all knew what was coming. They all knew the clock was ticking. HFY entered through the side door, carrying a tablet with new calculations. She was 38 years old, with dark hair pulled back in a tight bun, and she moved with the quiet confidence of someone who had solved impossible problems before. Her eyes were tired. There were dark circles under them that no amount of sleep seemed to fix anymore. "The latest energy readings look good," she said, standing beside Teo. "The capacitors are holding at 97% efficiency, better than we expected." Teo nodded slowly. He did not smile. "How long until the next supply ship arrives from Earth?" 3 weeks, HFY replied. "But that does not matter anymore. We have what we need. The prototype is ready." The prototype. The word hung in the air between them like a bomb about to explode. The railgun was real now. After 7 years of secret work, hidden from the Galactic Authority that watched over human space like a controlling parent watching a child, the weapon was finally complete. The Galactic Authority. The name alone made most humans feel small and powerless. They were an ancient alliance of aliens, beings who had evolved on distant worlds billions of years ago. They had visited Earth 200 years ago and decided that humanity was not ready for the wider galaxy. They were not ready for space travel, not ready for advanced technology, not ready for freedom. So the Authority had made a decision. Humans could stay on Earth and the inner solar system, but no further. Any human ship that tried to leave the Jupiter boundary was destroyed. The Authority did not need to say this explicitly. The destroyed ships were message enough. For 2 centuries, humans watched the stars and dreamed of reaching them. They knew other species existed out there, that the galaxy was full of life and worlds beyond counting. But they were prisoners in their own system, denied access to the rest of the universe. Then, 15 years ago, a scientific team discovered something in the asteroid belt. It was a ship, very old, with technology that did not match anything in human records. The ship was damaged, crashed in an asteroid field, hidden from Authority surveillance. Inside, the scientists found blueprints and data files. Reverse engineering those files had taken decades, but the results were worth every moment of work. Railgun technology. The ancient ship had carried weapons based on pure physics, using electromagnetic fields to accelerate metal projectiles to impossible speeds. The Authority had moved beyond such crude weapons long ago, choosing instead their particle beam weapons and shield technology. This meant they were unprepared for railguns. This meant humanity had found something the Authority did not expect. "I need to know that you are certain," Teo said to HFY. "Once we do this, there is no going back. The Authority will know we have developed weapons. They will see us as a threat." HFY looked at him for a long moment. Her dark eyes were serious, determined. "I know what this means. I lost my brother to an Authority patrol ship when he tried to reach Mars 15 years ago. He was not even a pilot or a soldier. He was just a man who wanted to see another world. The Authority killed him because he wanted freedom." She paused, and Teo could see pain in her expression, but also steel resolve. "Yes, I am certain," she continued. "We cannot live under their control forever. Every generation that passes sees more brilliant minds wasted, more dreams crushed. They treat us like children, like we cannot be trusted with our own future. It is time to show them that humans are not what they think we are." Teo walked to the window. In the distance, he could see a small shape moving across space. It was a patrol vessel from the Galactic Authority. The ship was elegant and sleek, with technology that looked like it came from the future. Humans had nothing like it. Their own ships were crude by comparison, built with materials and designs that seemed ancient beside Authority technology. But that patrol ship did not have a railgun defense. It had never needed one. The Authority believed they were untouchable, that no primitive species could ever challenge them. It was time to prove them wrong. "Send the message," Teo said quietly. "Tell all the teams to take positions. The railgun network goes online in 1 hour." HFY nodded and began sending encrypted communications through secure channels. Across the solar system, in bases hidden on moons and asteroids, human teams prepared for war. They all understood the risk. Many of them would probably die. But they also understood something else. This was the only chance humanity would ever get. The patrol ship grew closer. The communication frequency opened, as it always did when Authority ships approached human space. A voice came through the speakers, cold and precise, with an accent that was not quite human. "This is Authority Enforcement Vessel Kren 7, the voice said. "You will stand for inspection. Prepare docking procedures immediately." Teo opened a channel. "This is Commander Teo of Prometheus Station. We are prepared for inspection. Come closer." The patrol ship did exactly that. It approached the station, its weapons powered down because it never expected to need them. It had taken on countless inspections of human vessels over the centuries. Humans never fought back. Humans never even thought about fighting back. The final safety protocols disengaged. The railgun systems hummed to life, capacitors fully charged, targeting systems locking onto the approaching vessel. "Fire!" Teo commanded. The railgun discharged. The electromagnetic rails accelerated a projectile made of compressed iron to a speed of 18 kilometers per second. The acceleration happened in less than 1 second. The projectile left the barrel traveling at speeds that made it glow white-hot from friction against the air. The patrol ship had no time to react. No warning system could detect a weapon moving that fast. The projectile hit the vessel's hull and went straight through it like a bullet through paper, then through the engine compartment, then through the other side of the ship. The Kren 7 began to break apart. Its perfect technology failed. Its advanced systems could not save it from something so simple and brutal and fast. The ship exploded in a burst of metal and fire and light. Silence filled the communication channels. HFY stared at the screen, watching the debris float away from Prometheus Station. She thought about her brother. She thought about all the humans who had been denied the stars. "We just declared war on the Galactic Authority?" she said quietly. Teo watched the wreckage continue to drift through space. His face was calm, but his hands trembled slightly. He knew what this moment meant. He knew what was coming. "Yes," he said, "we did. Now we have to be ready for what comes next." The alarm sirens screamed across all communication frequencies. In military bases on Earth and throughout human-controlled space, soldiers and engineers heard the message that everyone knew would come eventually. The Galactic Authority was coming with war. Teo sat in the command center of Prometheus 7, watching multiple screens showing the approaching enemy vessels. There were 3 of them, enormous compared to human ships. Each one was kilometers long, with weapons systems that made the destroyed patrol ship look like a small toy. These were battle cruisers, the kind of ships the Authority used to crush rebellions on distant worlds. But Teo was not afraid. He had expected this response. In fact, he had counted on it. "Launch sequence for all secondary railgun platforms," he commanded. His voice was steady and calm, the voice of a man who had prepared for this moment his entire life. Around the solar system, hidden in bases on the Moon, Mars, and several asteroid stations, teams of engineers activated the railgun arrays. Each platform was smaller than the main gun on Prometheus 7, but they were still deadly. Together, they formed a network of weapons designed to make human space dangerous for the first time. Hei-Wan worked beside Tai-O, coordinating the power distribution systems. The railguns consumed enormous amounts of electricity. The solar panels and fusion reactors that powered human space could only keep them firing for so long. They would have to make every shot count. "All platforms report ready," Hei-Wan said, her fingers moving across the keyboard with practiced precision. "We have enough power for approximately 12 full salvos from each station. After that, we are relying on secondary systems." Tai-O nodded. 12 chances to destroy ships that had never known defeat. 12 chances to prove that humanity deserved to exist as equals in the galaxy. The 3 battle cruisers split formation, one headed toward the moon, another aimed for the Mars bases. The third, the largest one, came directly at Prometheus 7. It was a bold strategy, but the Authority had never faced weapons like railguns before. They did not know what to expect. On the moon, a young engineer named Jae-Sung stood in a bunker staring at his targeting computer. He was only 26 years old, with steady hands and a brilliant mind for weapons systems. But he had never killed anything bigger than a drone in simulation. Now, he was about to fire a weapon that could destroy a ship with thousands of lives on it. He thought about his family on Earth. He thought about the people who lived in the cities below. He thought about what the Authority would do if humans lost this battle. "Target locked," he said into his headset. "All teams, prepare for first salvo." The moon-based railgun fired. The discharge of energy was so powerful that it created a small earthquake at the base. The projectile left the launcher traveling at impossible speed. It crossed the distance between the moon and the approaching battlecruiser in just seconds. The impact was catastrophic. The battlecruiser's shields tried to protect it, but railgun projectiles did not work the same way as particle beams. The shields could not slow down pure kinetic force. The projectile went through the shields like they were made of paper and smashed into the ship's hull. Explosions bloomed across the battlecruiser's surface. Its left side was torn open, venting atmosphere and debris into space. "Direct hit!" Jae-Sung shouted, unable to contain his excitement. It had worked. The weapon actually worked. But the battlecruiser did not fall apart. Its systems were too advanced, too redundant. The ship managed to stay intact, though it was clearly damaged. It continued forward, slower now, but still advancing. "Fire again," Jae-Sung commanded. "All platforms, second salvo, fire now." The railgun systems across the solar system released their second volley. This time, the projectiles came from multiple directions at once. The battlecruiser above Mars took a direct hit on its rear engines. The cruiser heading for Prometheus 7 was struck twice, once on its starboard side and once on its command tower. The damage was severe. Both ships began to slow their approach. But the third battlecruiser, the one targeting Earth orbit, was hit but not disabled. It altered its course and continued its descent toward the inner planets. Hei-Wan watched the data stream across her screen. 2 cruisers damaged, 1 still functional and approaching Earth defense stations. "Tai-O, we do not have enough power for another full salvo on all platforms. The fusion reactors are overheating." This was the moment Tai-O had feared and prepared for. The first wave of fire had damaged the Authority ships, but they were not defeated. Now came the time when humans would learn if their courage and innovation could match the Authority's superior technology. "Concentrate all remaining fire on the approaching cruiser," Tai-O said. "Every platform in Earth orbit, Mars orbit, and the asteroid bases. I want that ship destroyed before it reaches targeting range of Earth." On a small station orbiting Earth, 3 railgun platforms prepared for the final salvo. The energy from reactors flowed into capacitors, charging them to maximum capacity. Engineers worked frantically to channel the power without burning out the systems completely. Jae-Sung felt sweat dripping down his face, despite the cool air in the bunker. This was it. This was the moment that would decide if humanity survived as a free species or became enslaved by the Authority once more. "All platforms locked on target," HFY said. "Awaiting your command, Teo." Teo looked at the screen showing the approaching battlecruiser. It was only minutes away from entering firing range. In just a few moments, the ship would be close enough to unleash weapons that could destroy entire cities on Earth. "Fire everything we have," he said quietly. "Now." The railguns discharged in a coordinated pattern that had been calculated 1,000 times by HFY and her team. 7 projectiles, all traveling at hypersonic speeds, all aimed at the same target. The first 2 projectiles hit the cruiser's weapons array, destroying the systems before they could fire. The next 3 struck the engine compartment. The last 2 hit the command center. The battlecruiser shattered. It broke apart in the vacuum of space, its advanced technology no match for the simple, brutal force of physics-based weapons. Thousands of lives were erased in an instant. Silence filled the command center of Prometheus 7. HFY looked at Teo, her eyes wide with shock and something else, something between triumph and horror. "We won," she said slowly. "We actually won." But Teo knew better. They had won a single battle, but the war was just beginning. The Authority had never been challenged before. They would send more ships, more weapons, more soldiers. They would pour resources into destroying this human rebellion until nothing remained. Teo opened a channel to the United Earth Council, the human government that ruled from a capital city deep underground on Earth. "This is Commander Teo. We have successfully repelled the first Authority assault," he said into the communication, "but we must move immediately to the next phase. We need the secret project. We need to access the old alien technology. We need the teleportation array. The Authority will not stop with 3 ships. This was only the beginning." From Earth, the response came after a long pause. "Understood, Commander. The Council is convening. We will discuss your proposal. But Teo, you understand what you are asking us to do. Teleportation has been forbidden by the Authority for 3,000 years. "Yes," Teo replied. "I understand. And I also understand that if we do not use it, humans will be extinct before the next Authority fleet arrives. We have one choice, and only one. We must risk everything." Deep underground in a facility hidden beneath the mountains of North Korea, Dr. Minho worked in a laboratory filled with alien technology. The machines around her were beautiful and terrifying at the same time. They glowed with colors that did not have human names. They hummed with power that made the air vibrate around them. Minho was 51 years old, with gray beginning to show in her black hair. She had spent the last 20 years studying this alien technology, trying to understand it, trying to make it work. Most of her colleagues had given up long ago, saying that humans would never master something so advanced. But Minho did not believe in impossible things. She believed in work and study and persistence. Beside her stood Dr. Kyung-soo, a younger man of 34 years, with nervous energy that never seemed to stop. Kyung-soo was brilliant, but reckless. He wanted to push every boundary, test every limit, and damn the consequences. He represented everything that made Minho nervous, but he also represented the future of human science. Without people like Kyung-soo, humanity would never achieve great things. "The quantum matrices are still unstable," Kyung-soo said, studying the readouts on his screen. "Every time we try to transmit matter, the entanglement breaks apart. We are losing coherence in the signal." Minho nodded slowly. She had expected this problem. Teleportation was not like moving an object from one place to another. It was something far more complex. It meant reading every atom, every electron, every quantum particle that made up an object, and then recreating that exact pattern in another location. The human body had something like 7 trillion atoms. Getting all of them to arrive in the correct configuration was like assembling a universe inside a grain of sand. "Show me the neural pattern data," Minho said. She had been thinking about this problem for weeks now, ever since Tayo had sent the urgent message requesting that the teleportation project be accelerated. Kyung-soo pulled up new data. In the past, they had tried to teleport simple objects: a piece of metal, a glass of water, a small animal. All of these experiments had failed in the same way. The matter would start to transmit, but somewhere in the process, the quantum information would decohere. The pattern would break apart, and the object would either fail to arrive or arrive in a corrupted state, wrong in some fundamental way. But Minho had realized something that the ancient aliens had also discovered. Living things had a different kind of quantum signature than dead matter. Consciousness, specifically the human brain, had neural patterns that were strange and chaotic and unpredictable. These unpredictable patterns actually stabilized quantum entanglement instead of breaking it down. "Run another simulation," Minho said. "This time use a human neural profile from our database. Model what happens when we try to teleport a conscious human." Kyung-soo entered the parameters. The simulation ran for several seconds, and then the results appeared on the screen. "By the gods," Kyung-soo whispered. "It works. The entanglement stays stable. The coherence actually increases with a human neural pattern present. It is the exact opposite of what we predicted." Minho allowed herself a small smile. She had been right. Humans were not primitive and useless as the authority claimed. Humans had something unique, something that made them perfect for this particular technology. "We need to test it," Minho said. "Soon, before the authority realizes what we are doing here." There was a knock on the laboratory door. A woman entered, her face serious and determined. This was Ji-woo, 35 years old, a former resistance fighter who had lost her entire family to authority enforcement officers. She had joined the secret teleportation project because she wanted revenge, but also because she wanted a future. "We have a problem," Ji-woo said without any greeting. "The authority has detected unusual power signatures in this facility. They are sending an investigation team. We have maybe 6 hours before they arrive." Minho and Kyung-soo looked at each other. They were not ready. The teleportation array was still incomplete. The safety protocols were not finished. But they did not have a choice anymore. "Then we test now," Minho said. She stood up and walked to the teleportation chamber, a circular platform surrounded by dozens of quantum processors. "I will be the first subject." "Absolutely not," Kyung-soo said immediately. "The system is not ready. We do not even know if it will work. You could be killed." "I could be dead in 6 hours anyway when the authority's investigation team arrives," Minho replied calmly. "At least this way, I choose my own fate. Besides, we need data. We need to know what happens when a human consciousness passes through the teleportation array." Ji-woo nodded slowly. She understood. She had lived her entire life in situations where people were forced to make impossible choices. "What do you need me to do?" Ji-woo asked. For the next hour, they made final adjustments to the teleportation array. Minho put on a special suit embedded with sensors that would monitor her vital signs during the process. She stepped into the transmission chamber, a cylindrical pod lined with glowing panels. "Receive chamber is charged and ready," Kyung-soo said. His hands shook as he typed. "The gateway in the next room is standing by." Minho took a deep breath. She thought about her family on Earth. She thought about her grandfather who had fought in wars decades ago. She thought about all the humans throughout history who had taken great risks for the sake of progress. "Do it," she said. Kyung-soo entered the final command sequence. The world exploded into light and sensation. Minho felt her body being torn apart, not painfully but in a strange way that she could not describe. It was like every part of her was being unmade, taken apart into its component atoms, its quantum information being scanned and recorded and transmitted. Then, just as suddenly, she was being remade. The sensation reversed. Atoms reassembled themselves in a new location. She felt her body materializing, becoming solid again, becoming real. She opened her eyes and found herself lying on the platform in the receive chamber. She was gasping for breath, but she was whole. She was alive. "Status?" Kyung-Soo's voice came through a speaker. "Are you functional? Do you have consciousness? Do you feel any disorientation?" Min-ho slowly sat up. Her body felt exactly the same as before. Her mind was clear. Her memories were intact. She felt no pain, no sense of wrongness. "I am fine," she said. "Better than fine. I am functional. The teleportation worked." For a moment, there was silence in the laboratory. Then Kyung-Soo's face appeared in the observation window, and he was grinning wider than Min-ho had ever seen. "You did it," he said. "You actually did it. We achieved teleportation. Humans have achieved teleportation." But the celebration was interrupted by alarms. Red lights began to flash in the facility. "Authority Enforcement Team," Ji-woo said, checking her communication device. "They are landing on the surface right now. We have minutes at best." Min-ho stood up, still feeling slightly strange from the teleportation, and looked at her colleagues. "Get everything into secure storage," she commanded. "All data files, all research notes. Send copies to every human facility that we have contact with. The Authority will try to capture this technology or destroy it. They will fear what it represents." She paused, thinking about what would come next. "And prepare the array for another jump," she added. "We need to get out of here, all of us. The Authority will interrogate us if they catch us. But if we use the teleportation technology to escape, we can continue our work elsewhere." Ji-woo was already moving, her hands flying across the control panels. Kyung-Soo gathered the most critical data on portable drives. The sound of explosions echoed through the facility. The Authority team was breaching the entrance. "Array is ready," Kyung-Soo said. "Where are we sending ourselves?" "Somewhere they will not think to look," Min-ho replied. "Somewhere safe. Send us to the Mars Research Station." One by one, they stepped into the teleportation chamber. One by one, they disappeared in a flash of light, leaving the ancient alien technology to face the Authority's soldiers alone. The battle began at dawn on 3 different worlds simultaneously. On Earth, Mars, and in the asteroid belt, human forces struck at Authority installations with precision and fury. Railguns fired from hidden positions, sending kinetic projectiles through the sky like metal comets. But this time, the humans were not acting alone. The Enforcer fleet had arrived, commanded by a being known simply as Krell. Krell was ancient beyond human comprehension, a creature that had existed for millions of years. Its body was silicon-based, crystalline, and hard as diamond. Its mind was sharp and cold and utterly devoted to the cause of maintaining Authority dominance across the galaxy. In its long existence, Krell had crushed 17 different species who had tried to rebel. It had never failed. It had never shown mercy. Krell stood on the bridge of its flagship, the Dominion's Void, and watched the human attacks with something that might have been curiosity if Krell was capable of such simple emotions. "The primitives are using kinetic weapons," a subordinate said, its voice filled with confusion. "Surely they understand that our shields can deflect such attacks." "Observe," Krell replied. Its voice sounded like grinding stones. "They are not attempting to penetrate our shields directly. Their strategy is different. Analyze." The subordinate studied the sensor data more carefully. The human railgun attacks were not aimed at the Enforcer fleet directly. Instead, the humans were destroying Authority installations on the planets below. They were attacking the infrastructure, the bases, the supply depots. They were trying to cut off the Authority's ability to project power on the ground. "They sacrifice shield technology," Krell observed, "in exchange for devastating kinetic force. It is primitive but effective. These humans have some tactical understanding." Interesting. But Krell did not have time to think about interesting tactics. At that exact moment, the teleportation system activated. Dozens of humans appeared inside Authority ships, inside Authority command centers, inside places where humans had no business being. Jiwoo materialized on the bridge of a smaller Authority vessel with 3 soldiers beside her. She was armed with a simple kinetic weapon, a gun that fired bullets through explosive propulsion. It was nothing compared to the plasma weapons that Authority soldiers carried, but in the confined space of a ship, it was enough. The first Authority guard died before it could react. The second and third followed quickly. Jiwoo and her team moved through the ship with military precision, destroying critical systems and eliminating enemy soldiers. Throughout the galaxy, the same scene was repeating itself. Human strike teams, equipped with teleportation technology and combat training, were inserting themselves directly into Authority positions. They were not trying to win a conventional war. They were fighting a guerrilla campaign with a weapon that the Authority had no defense against. On Earth, Teo coordinated the overall strategy from a command center hidden deep underground. Haewon stood beside him, managing the complex network of railgun fire and teleportation jumps. "We are losing the advantage," Haewon said, watching the data streams. "The Authority is adapting. They are moving their critical systems to locations that are harder to target. They are deploying countermeasures against teleportation." Teo nodded grimly. He had expected this. The Authority had existed for thousands of years because they were good at solving problems. They had brilliant minds and vast resources. Eventually, they would figure out how to counter human tactics. "We need to go bigger," Teo said. "Send the message to Minho. I want her to prepare the planetary teleportation array. We are going to attempt a direct strike on Krell himself." Haewon's eyes widened. "That is insane. We do not even know if a single human can successfully teleport into the Dominion's void. The security systems there are beyond anything we have faced before." "Then we do not send a single human," Teo replied. "Send Jae-sung. Send the best combat team we have. Send them to end this." On the moon, Jae-sung received the order and felt his stomach drop. He was not a soldier. He was an engineer. He had fired railguns at distant targets, but he had never fought in close combat with an enemy that could look him in the eyes. But he had volunteered for this long ago. He had always known that this day might come. The teleportation platform charged. Jae-sung stood with his team, a group of 10 fighters, all armed with weapons they had built themselves using materials from the asteroid belt. They were not soldiers trained by the Authority. They were humans fighting for their freedom. "Here we go," Jae-sung said. The world disappeared. He reappeared inside the bridge of the Dominion's void. For a moment, everything was chaos. The teleportation array on the ship had not been designed for incoming transmissions. It malfunctioned. Alarms screamed. The bridge erupted into violence. Authority guards opened fire with plasma weapons. Jae-sung and his team took cover behind the bridge's control stations. The combat was brutal and desperate. For every Authority guard that fell, the humans suffered casualties. Then Krell emerged from the rear of the bridge, moving with the fluid grace of a creature that had fought in 1,000 wars. Its crystalline body glinted in the artificial light. Its movements were impossibly fast, impossibly precise. Jae-sung watched in horror as Krell moved through his team like a machine of death. It killed with casual efficiency, its sharp edges cutting through human flesh and bone. One by one, the fighters fell. Jae-sung stood alone, facing Krell across the bridge of the Dominion's void. "I am Krell," the ancient being said. "I have existed when your species did not even dream of the stars. I have crushed rebellion across countless worlds. You are no different than 1,000 species before you." Jae-sung raised his weapon. His hands trembled, but he did not hesitate. He fired. The bullet struck Krell but did not penetrate its crystalline armor. Krell responded by moving faster than sight. It closed the distance between them in a fraction of a second. But at that exact moment, Jae-sung pulled the trigger on a secondary device. A magnetic charge, placed earlier in his suit, detonated inside the ship's command center. The explosion was catastrophic. The bridge erupted in fire and shrapnel. Krell was thrown backward by the force of the blast. Jae-sung felt his body being torn apart by the explosion, but in his final moment of consciousness, he smiled. He had done it. He had damaged the Dominion's void. The bridge sealed itself automatically, trying to contain the damage. The ship's systems screamed in protest as critical systems began to fail. Krell, though ancient and powerful, found itself trapped in a failing ship. The being used emergency protocols to evacuate, disappearing into a teleportation pod before the ship's core could destabilize completely. The Dominion's void, the symbol of authority power, began to break apart. Teo watched the news from Earth as it came through the communication channels. The Dominion's void was destroyed. Jae-sung and his team had sacrificed themselves to accomplish the mission. He felt sadness wash over him, but also something else. Something like hope. "Send the message throughout human space," Teo said to Haiwan. "Tell everyone what happened. Tell them that humans brought down the flagship of the Galactic Authority. Tell them that we are no longer slaves. Tell them that we are free." And across human-controlled territory, the message spread. In underground bases on Mars, in asteroid mining stations, on Earth itself. The word spread like wildfire. The Galactic Authority could be hurt. The Galactic Authority could be challenged. The Galactic Authority could be defeated. The message traveled across the stars faster than light itself, carried by quantum-entangled communication arrays that the humans had reverse-engineered from ancient alien technology. The message was simple and powerful. Humanity had struck down the Galactic Authority's most powerful symbol. The Dominion's void was destroyed. Krell was wounded and retreating. In the distant reaches of the galaxy, on worlds whose names no human had ever spoken, enslaved species heard the news. They had lived for millennia under authority control, told that resistance was futile, that the authority was all-powerful and eternal. But now they knew differently. If humans could stand against the authority, why couldn't they? The rebellion spread like fire across the galaxy. On Zephyr Prime, a world of crystalline beings, workers refused to mine rare minerals for authority supply chains. On Kaled 7, biological creatures that had been genetically modified into servitude began to fight back against their oppressors. On 36 other worlds, the same pattern repeated. The authority's dominion was beginning to crack. Haiwan coordinated the response from a new command center hidden on one of Jupiter's moons. She spent 18 hours a day managing communications with resistance movements across the galaxy. Some of these alien species were hostile. Some had nothing but hatred for humans. But they all shared one thing. They wanted freedom from the authority. "We have confirmed support from 47 worlds," Haiwan reported to Teo. "Another 30 worlds are waiting to see if the rebellion succeeds before they commit their own forces. It is working. The authority is truly weakening." But Teo was not celebrating. He stood looking at tactical displays, watching the authority's response to the uprising. Military fleets were being redirected across the galaxy to crush the rebellions, one by one. The authority was not trying to negotiate or to understand. They were trying to dominate, just as they always had. "This is not victory yet," Teo said quietly. "The authority still has resources we cannot match. If they concentrate their military power on a single target, they can destroy it. We need leverage." He turned to face Haiwan directly. "I want Min Ho to establish a global teleportation network," he said. "I want stable portals connecting every human position and every allied world to every other position. If the authority attacks one location, we teleport reinforcements directly into the battle. If they attack a planet, we evacuate the population before they can cause casualties. HFY listened carefully. She was beginning to understand Teo's strategy. The railgun gave humans the power to hurt. The teleportation array gave them the ability to move instantly across space. Together, these technologies created something the Authority had never faced before. An enemy that could not be pinned down, that could not be crushed through conventional warfare. "I will contact Minho," HFY said. "She is on Mars now, working with her team to stabilize the teleportation technology for long-distance jumps. I will accelerate the timeline." 3 days later, Minho stood in a newly constructed laboratory on Mars, watching as the first stable interplanetary portal opened. On one side was Mars. On the other side, visible through the shimmering gateway, was Earth. "We did it," Kyung-soo said, staring at the portal in amazement. "A functional portal connecting two worlds. We can expand this. We can connect the entire solar system. We can create a network." "More than that," Minho replied. "We can expand beyond the solar system. If we connect the portal nodes through quantum-entangled relays, we can create gateways between worlds light-years apart. We can connect human space to allied worlds. We can make distance meaningless." Ji-woo, standing beside them, smiled grimly. "That means reinforcements can arrive instantly anywhere. That means we can support any world under attack. That means the Authority cannot siege anyone." Over the next weeks, a miracle of human engineering took shape. Teleportation portals began to appear on dozens of worlds. At first, they were crude and unstable. Sometimes they malfunctioned, creating explosions or sending matter to the wrong location. But each failure taught them something new. Each problem was solved. The network grew stronger. Meanwhile, the Galactic Authority began to fracture from within. The oldest members of the Authority, beings who had held power for millions of years, began to debate strategy. Some wanted to continue the war at any cost. Others began to suggest that perhaps this rebellion had revealed a weakness in the Authority's system that needed to be addressed. Teo watched these debates through intelligence reports compiled by HFY's team. He realized that the key to victory was not military. The key was political. The Authority's own members were beginning to doubt whether they should continue fighting. He made a calculated decision. Through secure channels, he sent a message directly to the Authority's High Council. "I am Commander Teo of Earth," the message began. "I am writing to propose an immediate ceasefire. I am also writing to propose the dissolution of the Galactic Authority as it currently exists." The Authority's response came after a long silence. But the key phrase in their reply was this: "We will negotiate." Teo sat in a chamber floating in the neutral zone between human space and Authority territory. Across from him sat representatives of the Galactic Authority. These beings were ancient, powerful, and utterly shocked that they were being forced to bargain with a human. "The Authority has controlled the galaxy for over 3,000 years, the lead Authority representative said. Its voice was formal and cold. "How do you believe you have earned the right to demand anything of us?" "I do not demand," Teo replied. "I propose. Humans have shown that we possess technology and tactics that the Authority did not anticipate. We have proven that we can defend ourselves and help others do the same. The galaxy has changed. The old way of one power controlling everything is no longer possible." He paused, letting his words sink in. "I propose that the Galactic Authority dissolve," he continued. "I propose that all species, whether they have been part of the Authority or enslaved by it, participate in creating a new form of government. A government where all species have a voice. A government based on cooperation instead of control." The Authority representatives looked at each other. Some of them seemed angry. Others seemed to be considering his words seriously. "And if we refuse?" one of them asked. "Then the rebellion continues," Teo replied. The resistance movements on your territories grow stronger every day. More species join the cause. Eventually, your military power will be exhausted. But if you accept my proposal, the transition can happen peacefully. Millions of lives can be saved. The negotiations continued for 7 days. In the end, the authority agreed. Perhaps they had genuinely changed their minds. Perhaps they were simply too tired to keep fighting. Perhaps they recognized that the galaxy had evolved beyond their control. The Galactic Authority issued a formal declaration of dissolution. After 3,000 years of rule, it was over. Not through destruction or overwhelming military force, but through negotiation and the power of a new vision. Tayo received messages of congratulation from across the galaxy. Leaders of 1,000 different species thanked him for what humans had accomplished. But Tayo knew the truth. This was not one species' victory. This was the victory of everyone who had been oppressed, everyone who had fought for freedom, everyone who believed that a better future was possible. The galaxy had changed forever. The era of authority control was ending. The age of freedom was beginning.